A Cure for Wellness, the 2016 psychological horror movie. In this video, we will be diving straight into its deeper themes and symbolism. Let us begin. The film depicts a clash between two different ways of life. One is urban, with Wall Street executives burning themselves out in the pursuit of success. They occupy man-made structures of steel and glass, straining ever further towards the heavens, like the Tower of Babel. They're disconnected from nature. In the film, the representative of this world is Lockhart, and he is sent on a quest to retrieve the CEO, Roland Pembroke, from a sanatorium in the Swiss Alps. And it is in this remote location that he encounters a very different way of life. Here, the people are very much integrated with nature. There is a grander vision which animates them, a narrative of healing and transformation. And it's a vision which has captured the imagination of Roland Pembroke. Here's the letter he writes to his colleagues.
To my fellow members of the board, a man cannot unsee the truth. He cannot willingly return to darkness or go blind once he has the gift of sight. Any more than he can be unborn. We are the only species capable of self-reflection. The only species with the toxin of self-doubt written into our genetic code, unequal to our gifts. We build, we buy, we consume, we wrap ourselves in the illusion of material success. We cheat and deceive as we claw our way to the pinnacle of what we define as achievement, superiority to other men. There is a sickness inside us, rising like the bile that leaves that bitter taste at the back of our throats. It's there in every one of you seated around the table. We deny its existence until one day the body rebels against the mind and screams out, "I am not a well man." No doubt you will think only of the merger, that unclean melding of two equally diseased institutions. But the truth cannot be ignored, for only when we know what ails us can we hope to find the cure. I will not return. Do not attempt to contact me again. Sincerely, Roland E. Pembroke.
The diagnosis is chilling. Pembroke seems to have recognized something of the greed in the human heart and the ways in which the Wall Street work ethic can amplify it. There's a sickness. So what's the cure? Well, Pembroke believes that he has encountered it in the sanatorium, but of course, things are not what they seem. The creature which comes to represent the sanatorium is the eel, and symbolically the eel is effectively an underwater snake, this mysterious, cyclical, coiling influence which dwells in the murky depths. And thus, it is doubly representative of chaos. And yet the gate to the wellness centre features two metal eels. When the gate is open, each side resembles the rod of Asclepius from Greek mythology, a staff with a snake wrapped around it. To this day, it's a widely recognised symbol of medicine. But many think that the rod of Asclepius was inspired by an even earlier artifact, the bronze snake raised up on a pole by Moses in the wilderness, as recorded in the Book of Numbers. The Israelites who were bitten by snakes at the time received healing from their afflictions simply by looking towards the bronze serpent. Okay, so the eel in and of itself is a chaotic symbol. But when the gate to the sanatorium is open, each side is making us think of healing, maybe, the rod of Asclepius, the bronze serpent of Moses. But notice what happens when the gate is shut. The two eels appear to become intertwined. And that brings to mind the caduceus, the two intertwined snakes on the staff of Hermes in Greek mythology, which is often taken to represent trade and balance, reciprocity. So that's the enigma running throughout the movie. Is this a place of healing, or is it a place of chaos? We are now entering spoiler territory. Hannah is instrumental in breaking Lockhart out of the bubble of his Wall Street existence. And Lockhart is instrumental in breaking Hannah out of the bubble of her sanatorium existence, introducing her to the world beyond. It turns out that both their realms are ultimately enslaving them, and they need to discover something more, something better. Whether they ultimately find it is unclear. Over the course of the movie, we are gradually drip-fed the origin story for this sanatorium, and it is the key to what's really motivating the strange goings-on here. Let's check it out.
Apparently, the last Baron was so obsessed with the purity of his bloodline he decided only his sister was clean enough to carry his child. When the church forbade the union, he renounced God.
So the chaos which will permeate this story finds its origin in this peculiar and disturbing turn of events, a case of incest, with the Baron seeking to preserve the purity of his bloodline by reproducing with his sister. The church refused to bless that union, and it's worth thinking about why incest is a problem from a symbolic point of view. Matthieu Pageau gives a helpful account contrasting incest with adultery. In the Bible, the ultimate symbol of the other woman is the prostitute who never binds herself to a husband, but sells intercourse for men's recreation. As such, the harlot is a miniature representation of flooded land and the dominion of time. You are unstable as water and shall not remain, for you have ascended upon your father's bed and polluted it. Context for that verse, that's Jacob speaking to his firstborn son, Reuben, and he describes Reuben as being unstable, turbulent, like water. Why? Well, Reuben slept with Jacob's concubine, Bilhah. So Reuben committed the sin of adultery, and notice that in scripture it is likened to turbulent waters. So that's adultery. What about incest? Pageau goes on. In many ways, incestuous relationships may be interpreted as the polar opposite of adulterous relationships. Indeed, the taboo of adultery guards against that which is too exotic, and the taboo of incest guards against that which is too familiar. Now, consider the waters in A Cure for Wellness, deep underground in an aquifer. What do you notice? These waters are not flowing, they're not turbulent, they're eerily calm. If adultery is represented by turbulent waters, and incest is the polar opposite of adultery, then perhaps incest can be represented by static, stagnant waters. This might well be unintentional on the part of the filmmakers, but I think it fits. The incest of the Baron is represented by these non-turbulent, preserved waters underground. To his mind, that means purity. But Pageau goes on. Nevertheless, because of the cyclical nature of time, these apparently opposite taboos, adultery and incest, ironically share a common symbolism. Both taboos undermine the hierarchical integrity of familiar space through contradiction and uncertainty. For these reasons, adultery and incest are both interpreted as irrational and pointless acts of sexual aggression. Cursed is he who lies with his father's wife, because he has uncovered the skirt corners of his father. As illustrated in this diagram, incestuous relationships create self-referential feedback loops in the fabric of space. In other words, incest undermines the integrity of familiar space. It does so by transforming the reproductive tree pattern into a self-negating and self-renewing cyclical pattern. In the Bible, incest, adultery, and all sexual taboos are considered acts of regression that unravel civilization into a primitive cyclical condition. Now, there is a lot going on there. Just for some context, in the ancient worldview, the terms space and time, as they were being used just then, they were seen as opposites in conflict with each other. Space is associated with stability, whereas time is this cyclical, overturning, destructive force. Time eats space. And Pageau starts by saying that adultery is a dominion of time. It is a handing over to these exotic, overturning forces. Whereas incest is the polar opposite. It is too familiar. It is turning the family tree in on itself. But the point is this, ultimately both adultery and incest lead to chaos. Incest may give the illusion of stability at first. That's what the Baron fell for. He believed it would preserve the purity of his bloodline. But actually it undermines the integrity of the family tree. And even from a purely scientific point of view, we know that incest is a bad idea. So the church forbade the union between the Baron and his sister, and the Baron didn't take it well. He responded by renouncing God. In effect, he was saying, if I can't marry my sister in the eyes of God, then I want nothing to do with that God. We later learn that the Baron even had the priest executed.
That's where the Baron hung the priest.
What's that?
See? The church would have been right over there, where that funny little building is now, I'm sure of it.
A man of God was martyred for refusing to bless the Baron's incestuous union, and the chaos continued to unfold.
So on his wedding night, the villagers came up the hill, chased the Baron and his bride into the catacombs, and made him watch while they burned her alive. Then they burned the whole place to the ground.
Let's find out what else was going on.
You were right about the Baron and his sister. But that's not the reason the villagers burnt the place down. It was on account of the experiments. Some sort of medical experiments. Apparently performed on his own peasants. People went missing.
He was looking for a cure.
A cure?
For the Baroness. She was sick.
She wasn't sick. She was infertile. They tried for years. But the Baroness cannot carry a child to term. They say her body rejected the fetuses because they were deformed.
So desperate he was to father a child with his sister, the Baron turned his attention to the aquifer beneath the castle. The water it holds has extraordinary properties.
The sanatorium is built of an ancient aquifer that offers uniquely rejuvenating qualities.
This water is toxic to humans, but the Baron discovered that by filtering it through the bodies of local peasants, he was able to purify it into a life-giving elixir, and this potion enabled his sister to carry a child. So in effect, the Baron was kind of brute forcing his plan. The church forbade the union with his sister. Biologically, it was proving impossible, but then using this water and through the exploitation of innocent civilians, he was able to develop this potion. Now, the Baron doesn't seem to have spirituality. He's a scientist, which is pretty chilling because it's like, well, yeah, if there's no ethical framework governing science, then all sorts of things start to become justified in the name of science. But it has some maybe pagan connotations, this manifesting this elixir of life, even if the Baron wouldn't put it that way. Well, in any case, the Baroness became pregnant, and this all built to a catastrophic confrontation.
She was pregnant the night of the wedding. Before they burnt her, the villagers cut out the fetus and threw it in the aquifer. The child survived.
She was exposed to serious trauma when she was very young. Her development was delayed, and she did not utter a word until she was 11 years old.
Through the life-prolonging properties of the water, both the Baron and his daughter are still alive. Their aging has been slowed. The Baron lives on with the new identity of Dr. Heinrich Vollmer, and he wears a mask to disguise the burns on his face resulting from that original fire. And Hannah is his daughter. And now he wants to continue his bloodline by fathering children with her. It's disturbing stuff. In both cases, with his sister and now with his daughter, it's non-consensual. Not only is the Baron pursuing incest, he's also a rapist.
Another ballerina?
She's not like the others.
Why's that?
She lives in a dream.
But she's dancing.
That's because she doesn't know she's dreaming.
This is Lockhart's mum, and she seems to have some kind of prophetic insight. The ballerina music box, which she is decorating, plays the same haunting melody that is associated with Hannah's character. We even hear Hannah humming it. She has been brought up in a horrific environment. She's enslaved, but for much of the film she does not know it.
No one ever leaves. Why would anyone want to?
She's living in a dream, and she needs to be woken up. She needs to be set free from the oppression of her father.
It's my mother's.
Her eyes are closed.
Yeah, she's dreaming. She just doesn't know it.
And what happens if she wakes up?
I don't know. My mother never finished the story.
This dream motif runs throughout the film. As Hannah starts to wake up to the truth, Lockhart himself succumbs to the hypnotic power of the Baron's treatments.
She's awake now. You made me believe I could leave here one day.
Why would anybody want to leave?
He slips into a kind of dream state. It's notable that staying at the sanatorium and drinking its water gradually causes one's teeth to fall out, because that's a recurring dream that people often have, dreaming of losing their teeth. Once again, Matthieu Pageau elaborates, at the internal level in the dream world, losing your voice or teeth are common representations of losing heaven/mind. They symbolize the inability to impose meaning from the head upon physical reality, by commanding it or by eating it. This can manifest itself as the inability to yell or speak. loose or fragile teeth, or losing authority over others. These are all consequences of losing your conscious identity, your name and reputation, as well as the language that expresses it. So A Cure for Wellness blurs the boundary between reality and dreams in a really interesting way. The effect is disorientating. Can the characters trust their own perceptions? Can we as an audience trust what we are being shown? Such is the manipulative, hypnotic influence of the Baron, a true agent of chaos in the story. Another detail, Hannah is often seen standing on a precipice, echoing the death of Lockhart's father, a man driven to despair by the work ethic of the company. Both realms, Wall Street and the sanatorium, are teetering on the brink of destruction. There must be another way.
The last 200 years have been the most productive in human history. Man rid himself of God, of hierarchy, of everything that gave him meaning, till he was left worshipping the empty altar of his own ambition. That is why they come. Men like you.
And this is crucial. In the 21st century, the Baron now finds himself among willing subjects, or at least he's made them willing. People who have been burnt out by the meaning crisis, the vacuous pursuit of selfish ambition. They have dehumanized themselves in the quest for greatness.
Most of my patients have done extraordinary things. Built vast fortunes, commanded great empires, but at a terrible cost. They have no one who cares for them.
And now many of them are docile, like putty in the hands of the Baron, and he treats them as nothing more than filtration units, instruments to be used in the continuation of his bloodline, just like the peasants all those centuries ago. The end of the film represents a repudiation of both philosophies. Lockhart leaves his Wall Street existence behind, avenging the death of his father. Hannah escapes the shackles of her despicable father, the Baron, and the two ride off on a bicycle towards what? If Wall Street is not the answer, and a sanatorium is not the answer, what is? Implicitly, the film might be saying that the answer is a return to the Christianity which was so vehemently opposed by both realms.
Have you lost your mind?
Actually, I'm feeling much better.
But notice Lockhart's expression. He grins maniacally. Now, are these two characters truly free, or does the Baron's influence persist? It's deliberately ambiguous. So there we go, A Cure for Wellness. Without a deeper theological vision for life and for humanity, the most egregious evils start to become normalized, from the skyscrapers of New York to the stunning vistas of the Swiss Alps. And the cure is not something that we can manufacture. True deliverance, if it exists, must come from beyond.
What happens if she wakes up?
I don't know. My mother never finished the story.
My name is Thomas Thorogood. I get into the deeper meaning of movies. If you're interested, I have some bonus video clips and video essays on my Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/Thomas Thorogood. Thanks so much for watching. I will be back soon. And remember, it's deeper than you think.